From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Now it's a trade war. The U.S. implements new tariffs on China. Agribusiness, what has it meant to pork exports?
You know, we're in a situation where we're up still 2% in terms of the volume of pork exports so far this year.
A new cattle on feed puts inventories at fresh highs. And good animal care is part of running a good business. Plus, fun on the farm. Sometimes it just takes a little creativity.
AgDay, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Threats turn into action as the U.S. dumps more tariffs on China and China reciprocates. The U.S. implementing 10% tariffs on another $200 billion in Chinese products. China, in turn, tacked on tariffs on another $60 billion on U.S. products. The president says he'll follow that with $257 billion in tariffs. China also canceling trade talks, saying they won't bend to the pressure. China is appealing to the Midwest, buying advertisements in Iowa's largest newspaper now to highlight what it calls, quote, the fruit of a president's folly.
You know, some of the things that have happened with NAFTA and TPP and with China needed to be done. It's how it's been done. And one of the things is we have probably destroyed some of the trust that oftentimes it takes a number of years to build up. And so I would say that trust that has been broken down. And so while we're officially not in the war, the pre-shots have been pretty devastating. It's going to be a long time to build that back.
Producer sign-ups began Monday for 2 additional crops added to USDA's tariff aid program. Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue announcing Friday that shelled almonds and fresh sweet cherries were added to the trade mitigation package aimed at assisting farmers. USDA says a payment will be issued on 50% of the producer's total production multiplied by the MFP rate for a specific commodity. The payment for shelled almonds is 3 cents a pound. Fresh sweet cherries would hit 16 cents a pound. Also on the trade front, the U.S. and South Korea will sign a revised trade agreement this week. The changes focusing mostly on automotive provisions, and it eases some customs processes that discourage imports of U.S. ag products. Also this week, the EU's trade chief, Cecilia Malmström, will meet the U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer and Japan's Minister for Economy, Trade and Industry. Shares of Pacific Ethanol and other biofuels companies pushing higher Monday as word spread that the Trump administration is preparing a policy change allowing year-round sales of gasoline with higher ethanol blends. Stock in the California biofuel company climbing 17% in early trading. Bloomberg News reporting President Trump is set to unveil the new policy in the coming weeks, but no specific date or location is set. Also in biofuel news, the EPA last week adding transparency to RIN prices. Agency rolling out a new website that tracks RINs and releases data on small refinery exemptions. The EPA disclosing the information as part of a new push to boost transparency around the RFS and its credit trading system for tracking refinery compliance with annual biofuel blending quotas. The USDA's latest cattle on feed numbers putting September 1st inventories at 11 million head. It's the highest since the series of reports began. The biggest inventory increases were in the Golden State, California numbers jumping 25% on the year. South Dakota, the only major state to report a year-to-year decline. Placements were up 7%, mostly with cattle weighing less than 800 pounds, and low feed costs and dry weather helping pull those cattle into feedlots off of pasture. Marketing's just slightly above a year ago. Let's take a quick glance around farm country with meteorologist Mike Hoffman and the AgDay weather team. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Clinton. We received this cute harvest photo from Sam Road of Delphus, Ohio. That's young Kaylee and Olivia Road taking a short break from making the rounds in the combine. They say bean harvest is off and running this fall. USDA says beans have a ways to go, although maturities are ahead of schedule. Thanks, Sam. If you have harvest photos, be sure to share them with us on Facebook or Twitter. And taking a look at the wind speed forecast now, you can see a little bit windy eastern Great Lakes, eastern Colorado up into parts of Nebraska. As we start the day, as we head through the rest of the day, then it becomes windier into Texas and Oklahoma, the Black Hills area and some of the surrounding sections. Heading into the day tomorrow, you can see that cold front moving into central Texas. And also the eastern Great Lakes starting off a little breezy, and it'll end that way again in Montana, North Dakota, the Northeast, and South Texas. We'll have your forecast coming up, but first here are some hometown temps.
AgDay, brought to you by Instinct and N-Serve nitrogen stabilizers. They don't just stabilize nitrogen, they maximize it, so crops deliver the max in return. Learn more at maxinmaxout.com.
With all of the trade issues currently up in the air, how is that impacting pork exports? We'll talk about it next in Analysis. Plus, we'll look at animal care standards and see how one producer uses an innkeeper-like mentality to care for her cows. And bringing a kids' carnival to the countryside, much to the delight of toddlers in this part of North Dakota. Agribusiness trade tensions taking a bite out of equity markets on Monday. Let's see how things closed in Chicago.
Soybeans slipped a little bit. Those U.S.-China negotiations have just stalled the market completely. We were down about 5 cents. There has been a little bit of lackluster trade that does give way to some of the weaknesses, but this escalation of those the tariff wars with China leaving the table really hurt the soybean market, and we know that it's also being hurt by early planting from Brazil and South America. That makes it so difficult for anyone to step in to try to buy anything. Corn rallied as well as wheat, and corn is still rising. The last few sessions, it keeps moving up. The exports are still strong, and that's still keeping up with the market. The cattle was a little bit lower after that on-feed report on Friday. It was kind of bearish. They were really hoping for it to be a little bit better. There's been some active bids in the cash cattle trade, but we're expecting that there's going to be a lot more coming later in the week, and so the market kind of slipped just a little bit. The lackluster trade sometimes gives way to weakness, and we saw that as well with the feeders. The feeders fell somewhat. Those placements were much higher than expected, and really towards the higher end of the channel that we've been trading in. That's all from the floor at the CME Group here in Chicago. I'm Virginia McGathy.
Trade issues have been a stumbling block for ag this year, but exports are holding up, so to speak. Tyne Morgan explains in today's Analysis from the Road.
Here now with Dr. Scott Brown from the University of Missouri. Dr. Brown, when you look at exports and you look at the red meat exports, despite tariffs and despite other factors that we thought would impede some of those exports, export numbers have held up fairly well.
Yes, they have. If you look at pork in particular, where tariffs have been the most influential, you know, we're in a situation where we're up still 2% in terms of the volume of pork exports so far this year.
2% overall. You know, the value side, though, we know that's where producers are getting hit. And so where are we seeing the value?
Yeah, so I think when you look at Mexico in particular, the value side has been down double digits in terms of the value of pork exports to Mexico. And that's what's really hurt our pork producers. From a quantity side, not so bad, but that value side then just translates into lower hog prices.
But does it surprise you that even with the tariffs, Mexico is still buying U.S. pork?
Well, I think in many cases we're nearby. We're a close source for them. And so I'm not completely surprised to see that, despite some early rhetoric that they would be looking for other markets.
But do you think if the NAFTA bilateral deal, if it goes through with Mexico, do you think we'll see Mexico increase buys of U.S. pork even more?
I would see some increase expected in terms of their buys, but then also getting rid of the tariff ought to actually help our values of things like hams in this country that ought to return additional dollars to producers here.
When you see the shuffle of exports, who else is stepping up to the plate to buy U.S. pork?
So we are seeing places like South Korea, Japan, with some strength, but really we're just going back to those traditional markets by and large. Now that's not counting variety meats, which is a whole different story, but that traditional pork market, we're seeing some of the same players.
But is it enough to impact price? I mean, we've seen the supply side, we've seen the impact that on hog futures, and exports have been strong, but at the end of the day, pork producers saying we're still struggling right now.
Yeah, so it's my concern, Tyne. If you think about what's been happening, I think when we get next week's Hogs and Pigs report, we'll now say we have 10 consecutive quarters of growth in sow inventories in this country. We don't do that very often. And so I think the supply side is still an issue that we have to be paying attention to.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of growth in exports to offset what's going to be another probably 3-4% growth in pork production in 2019.
All right, Dr. Brown, thank you so much. We need to take a quick break, and then we'll have much more right here on Ag Day.
Welcome back to AgDay, our meteorologist Mike Hoffman. Mike, as we look at the East Coast, more rain for the New England area, but this cold front bringing some cooler weather with it.
Yes, it will, and it'll bring a line of thunderstorms out ahead of it each afternoon. But that's a pretty good area of rain, like you said, in New England. At least it's on its way to New England. Right now, it's in the eastern Great Lakes, much of Pennsylvania, eastern Ohio getting lots of rain this morning. And we have a tropical-like system off the southeast coast. This is not really expected to intensify too much, but it will bring some showers and thunderstorms mainly to the coastal areas, eastern Carolina, as that kind of scoots eastward. There's that cold front Clinton mentioned, and you can see as we head through the day, area of low pressure along it. We'll have an area of rain from eastern Nebraska across parts of Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, into the UP of Michigan. And then this afternoon, a few hit and miss showers and thunderstorms along the cold front. Heading through tonight then, that storm system goes on up into eastern portions of Canada over the next day or two. Cold front southward across the Ohio River Valley into central Texas. And by afternoon, that's going to be showing widespread showers and thunderstorms from South Texas on up into the southern Mississippi Valley, the central portions of the Appalachians into the northeast. Behind it, some cooler air, there's no doubt about it, and another system coming into southern Canada. So, excuse me, North Dakota, Montana, probably getting some hit and miss showers tomorrow afternoon. Checking out the precipitation estimate over the past 24 hours, it's been a pretty big rainmaker from western Tennessee, western Kentucky, southeastern portions of Missouri, and up across Ohio, southern Indiana. Heading into the next 36 hours, you can see that continues to spread up across New England. Decent amounts of rain. I mean, when you're talking parts of New York, Pennsylvania getting 2 to 3 inches of rain, and then you see 3 inches in many areas of Ohio down into the Tennessee Valley and hit and miss through the southern Mississippi Valley. Kind of wet for this time of the year. Time of year where we'd like to be getting out into the fields and getting our crops in. Temperatures this afternoon, you can see behind this front only in the 50s for afternoon temperatures, but well into the 80s out ahead of it. So a big change in the weather as this cold front comes on through. Lows tonight into the 30s. Western portions of the Dakotas still 70s in the eastern Ohio Valley. Very muggy air for this time of the year. And as we head through tomorrow afternoon, that cool air will continue to come eastward, all because of this trough that kind of digs into the Great Lakes. Another one kind of replaces it. But then we go zonal for a while over the weekend with a trough redeveloping out west next week. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. First of all, for Globe, Arizona today, partly sunny, rather hot, high temperature of 89 degrees. Wausau, Wisconsin, mostly cloudy, showers around, high of 65. And Ocala, Florida, partly sunny, an afternoon thunderstorm around the area, high 91.
Later on AgDay, except at the county fair, amusement rides are few and far between in farm country, so one North Dakota inventor did something about it. But first, we head to Maryland to visit a hotel for cows of sorts. The producer sets the standard for animal care.
The National Dairy Farm Program strives to create a culture of continuous improvement for the entire dairy industry. For more information, visit nationaldairyfarm.com.
You know, today consumers want to know how animals are treated on the farm. Sometimes it even impacts their purchasing decisions. Well, the dairy industry recognizes this and developed unified national standards called the Farm Animal Care Program. Dairy farmers, cooperatives, and processors are using these benchmarks to make sure they ship a safe product that's sourced from herds taken care of responsibly. Betsy Gibbon looks at the animal husbandry side of the standards.
When you step onto Cow Comfort and Dairy in Union Bridge, Maryland, the name speaks for itself. A list lays out your visit and why these cows enjoy their stay too.
We have a saying in the industry, when you take care of your cows, the cows take care of you.
Both Katie Doddert Pyle and her husband David Pyle grew up on dairies in the Northeast. They even met at one where they both worked. It wasn't just love that helped create this 400-head dairy.
I was never allowed to have a Jersey cow growing up. My uncle would go to cow sales and I'd always say, can you please just one Jersey?
The Jerseys may have won her over.
So when I met my husband and found out he had all brown cows, I'm like, hello. I joke that I married him for his brown cows. It might only be half true.
Since then, this young farmer shares how and why animal husbandry is important. For example, she offers rubber mattresses covered with recycled manure.
It's super comfy to lay in. I've actually taken a nap in it before. She has feed. We moved her in here to the pre-fresh.
To connect with consumers on tours and online, videos with hashtags like Ask Farmers, not Google.
I use this because, listen, I use Google too, but Google doesn't know everything. Google doesn't milk cows. Google doesn't take care of cows. We do.
While this dairy may stand out, what you may not realize is how Cow Comfort Inn is one of many operations following a set of benchmarks nationwide. The program is called Farmers Assuring Responsible Management, or the Farm Animal Care Program. It was developed by the National Milk Producers Federation with support from Dairy Management Incorporated back in 2009.
And the feedback that we continue to hear from our customers and consumers is continuous improvement is really important in the industry. So if we can have a program that indicates and shows that you're going to be improving and every day you're working to do better and to do more, that is something they want to embrace and be a part of.
The group is not exclusive. Roughly 98% of the milk marketed in the United States goes through these set of standards on the dairies.
We as the farm team don't expect our dairies to be perfect today. I don't think anybody in any business is expected to be perfect, but what we are asking for is that continuous improvement.
They're very comfortable.
Part of the process is having an evaluator come to the operation once every 3 years. The milk from this operation goes to Land O'Lakes. The company is making it a requirement all of its member dairies participate in the Farm Animal Care Program.
We may talk to some individual caretakers, like we may talk to the feeders, we may talk to the people in the parlor. So building that relationship with the management team and with the individual workers, you have to have both pieces in order to have an effective evaluation.
It's a good tool for their company and message for their consumers too.
Our customers appreciate that we have data to back up the claims that we're making, and our producers appreciate that we're doing something to broadcast the good things that they do every day to take care of their animals.
And it's nice to be held accountable, and I think we, as farmers, should be holding ourselves accountable for cow care. I mean, these cows are under our care for a reason.
Whether you check in for the afternoon or are curious about the cows here.
Hi. Again, I keep going back to if you take care of the cows, they'll take care of you.
Rest assured, once you arrive, you'll know why cows enjoy their stay. Reporting in Union Bridge, Maryland, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
All right, thanks, Betsy. The dairy also implements standards for its farm team. She uses a Merck 365 program encouraged by the Farm Animal Care Program, where employees study educational components like cow handling and why certain practices are needed. There's a quiz at the end where employees receive a certificate for their work. All right, when we come back, a carnival in the countryside of North Dakota.
In the Country, sponsored by the all-new Kubota Sidekick, a utility vehicle that lets you climb more, cover more, tow more, and enjoy more. Visit KubotaUSA.com.
Growing up on a farm with the closest neighbor or friend miles away, you need to come up with your own fun, perhaps invoke some creativity. Well, a North Dakota man is using some of that creativity to create a carnival-like atmosphere. Cliff Naylor from AgDay affiliate KFYR has her story.
The sound of children's laughter cascades off wheat fields that surround this 100-year-old farm. Lauren Myron began building this agricultural amusement park 10 years ago.
There's nothing better than doing something for your grandkids. That's the spice of life.
He found all the entertainment equipment at auction sales, or built it with his own two hands.
It just took some tinkering and painting and putting new chains on, making sure they're safe.
This frolic farm has received the adolescent seal of approval.
The faster it went, the more spinnier it went, and I liked it the faster it went because you went faster and faster and faster.
Rural families appreciate having a park out in the middle of a pasture.
It's a lot of fun. They come out, they play all afternoon, get wore out. It's good for them.
One of this place's favorite attractions doesn't feature any moving parts.
There you go.
Lauren transformed a 1955 Chevy 2-ton truck into Towmater from the popular Disney movie Cars.
I shortened it by 3 feet because Towmater is quite short, and everything else I fabricated.
A small-scale model of the cartoon pickup was used to create a precise replica.
My 10-year-old granddaughter said to me when she saw it, she said, "Grandpa, you did everything just right." And that feels pretty good.
Bushels of good old-fashioned fun are harvested here every time a child delights in this field of fun. I'm Cliff Naylor, reporting for AgDay.
Lauren also opens his amusement park to students from other area schools. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. Spent part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.